Yeah, it is true that I have worked with both digital and print media. Fundamental difference between writing for a newspaper and writing for social media would be to understand that for newspapers there is no specific community of readers whom you can imagine. On the other hand, in the social media there is a kind of emotional bond, an affective bond that a community has already established and looking forward to responding to the views and perspectives that you provide in social media. On the other hand, there is absolutely no way of understanding the range of responses that will be generated after you write something in a newspaper. And in the case of social media, it will be more immediate. And the other thing is that if you write in social media, that actually is the limit of what you write. Newspapers are not going to, unless it is kind of so important for them, they are not going to pick up threads from whatever you write in the social media. On the other hand, if you write something in the newspaper, you can immediately give a link or give some images of that in the social media, and then the kind of community that you think are interested in your kind of work will gather there and then give responses. So that kind of leverage is not available with newspapers. But on the other hand, newspapers take your views and perspectives to people and places with whom you have absolutely no direct connection, which means that a lagged response is also possible. For example, once you write something in a newspaper, probably you could see a response after 2 weeks, 3 weeks. In social media, on the other hand, it will be quite immediate. And the other thing is that the newspaper, particularly when they are online, would generate some kind of discussion, but then that discussion is not very focused. On the other hand, if you write in social media, the discussion will be much more focused than in the newspapers. But of course, there is this legacy of newspapers having more credibility than social media, that kind of part of a belief system, and then that still prevails strongly among many people. Suppose something comes in the newspaper, that has more credibility than something that you write in social media, and there is also this feeling that you will be more careful and more kind of responsible when you write for a newspaper rather than when you write for social media, because social media kind of more transient than newspapers. Another thing is that in social media you have an opportunity to correct immediately, edit out or edit in something that you want to kind of add as an additional information. But if you are writing in the newspaper, that's going to take a longer time to do the kind of corrections that you require. And here is actually the complementarity between newspaper and social media going to come in. Suppose you make a blunder in writing in the newspaper, immediately you can actually go to the social media page and then say that this mistake has happened and I would like to correct it. So that way there is a complementarity also between newspapers and social media. Over the time this has also evolved. So whether you are writing for print or digital media, what I think is important is not actually the difference, but the kind of complementarities that are developing between newspapers and social media. Yeah, if somebody asked me this question, where would I like to write, in print or digital media, I would say both, because both have become extremely important in kind of sharing your perspectives with a kind of audience whom you would like to interact with you. If I'm pressed to say which will be my preference, I will say print media. The reason is that print media has this leverage of kind of getting across, as I was telling earlier, a larger audience than social media. Technically speaking, yes, social media has unlimited audience, but the kind of platforms that we write in, for example, if it is a blog or if it is Facebook or Twitter, it's constrained by the number of followers you have, number of friends you have, the number of people who have signed in for your blog, etc. Whereas in the case of a newspaper, it is much more spread across different kind of sections, and then the responses also could in that sense come from a widely varying audience. So my experience is also like that. I mean, for example, when I've been writing a column for a newspaper for the last 8 years, so if I was actually doing it in a kind of social media platform, then the kind of audience that it would reach would have been very limited. On the other hand, this has become a permanent feature of the newspaper, and then there are people who are in a certain sense, kind of for the sake of reading it and expecting that it would appear at a particular point of time. Both are a fleeting audience. I mean, we don't tend to think that newspaper has a more consolidated, solid audience, and social media has a different kind of fluid audience. That's not the case. But even then, the kind of solidity that one can expect from writing in a newspaper, you can never expect from writing in a digital media. But on the other hand, if you want to convey something quickly, exploiting the immediacy of the platform that you are using, then social media or digital platform is much better. So it depends on what you really want to write. I mean, suppose you want to write an obituary immediately, I mean, and put it across, and you don't want to wait for another 2 days, 3 days, then digital medium is actually the best option. Later you can write an analytical piece later on in the newspaper on the same topic. Nobody stops you from doing that. But the preference is given for print precisely because of this particular reason, that it helps you to get across a larger audience whom you don't have a control over, and then you don't know, you can't block, as you do in Facebook or a social media platform, a reader of the newspaper. So that, but at the same time, there is this leverage that as a writer you are getting to receive at least a lagged response from a different kind of sects of people, and that is not actually possible with digital medium. Somebody has a celebrity status in a social media, even then only when the newspapers pick up pieces from their social media page and publishes it and prints it out, it reaches a still wider audience. So that, I think, is actually the charm of print. And again, as I said earlier, people still believe that what comes in the newspaper has more credibility than what comes in the social media. So that is one reason why I think, if I have a marginal kind of bias, that will be towards the print media. The kind of affordances that certain type of social media platforms provide requires that you need a certain kind of brevity in communicating ideas in those platforms. Like, for example, Twitter, there is a limit to number of letters that one can use when you tweet. More reliance has to be given to the images or links that you provide along with. In Instagram also, I think again it is supposed to be more of a visual kind of medium than a writing medium. So there has to be a blend of a powerful visual and a very short write up, so that it will be kind of hitting the target. Otherwise, in Facebook also, I mean, Facebook actually provides you the facility to write long articles in case you want it, but then most of the social media users will not have the patience to go through all that you write there up. So brevity becomes an important aspect in Facebook also. But on the other hand, print media gives you this facility to elaborate the finer theoretical or analytical perspectives that you may want to kind of supplement to substantiate your perspective. That actually is sometimes not possible with social media because of the specificities or the affordances that these platforms provide for us. It's also not possible to write in a similar way in social media and the print media. The style and writing techniques and the language that you use in print media has to go in tandem with the style of the newspaper in which you write, and also the magazine or periodical whatever, right, and also the other people who write and interact with you in that kind of domain. So there are various other specificities of the particular newspaper in which you are writing and the newspapers in general that one need to take into consideration when one writes in a newspaper. Another thing is that is regarding the impact. Suppose you write a very interesting point in your social media platform, that may kind of elicit some quick response, whereas if you write that in an article form in a newspaper, it could even have an immediate policy impact, because it will be widely read and discussed by people whom you think are relevant in making those ideas kind of as material. The material prospects of those ideas can also be taken up by some people who are at the right places for doing that. That is actually not immediately possible with social media, unless, as I told earlier, these social media bits are kind of picked up by newspapers. So there is a policy impact that one expects by writing in a newspaper, and that's more immediate than actually the kind of immediacy that you see in terms of reception that you get in social media. This is precisely why I think the language that you use in social media and the language that you use in a newspaper article has to be very different. And sometimes like the kind of quick-witted points that you would try to engage with in Instagram or Twitter or Facebook may not actually click with newspaper articles. That requires a different kind of patience to tease out your arguments and then substantiate your arguments, convince your readers the relevance of what you write, and things like that. So in that sense, I think these are two different mediums, and the way you write will differ from one medium to another in the social media also. I mean, what you write in Instagram may not be actually possible to be put up in Twitter. Same is true of kind of blogs or Facebook. In the case of a newspaper article also, this is pertinent to a certain extent, in the sense that the a newspaper in which you write, for example, matters a lot. Whether it's a regional language newspaper or an English language kind of newspaper, etc., also matters. And also there are intricate aspects of writing in newspapers. I mean, the media group, their own kind of historical antecedents, etc., will also will have a bearing on what you write in the newspaper media, which will be taken up by people for kind of later criticism. But nobody will actually kind of take you on for something that you write in Facebook and then link directly to Zuckerberg. But on the other hand, what you write in a newspaper could probably be linked to the management of that particular newspaper. This will not happen in the case of something that you write in Facebook, for example. So there are such intricate complexities that one needs to kind of address while taking a decision to write in a particular medium. So whether it is newsprint or digital media, those considerations are becoming increasingly important. Yeah, the fact is that there are no kind of immediate tips that one can give for writing for digital media, because it's an evolving media, and then your own style of writing, your own kind of priorities determine what you write and how you write. But at the same time, there are certain things out of our own experience with digital media in the last 2 decades that we have come to understand. And one is that the readers of digital media would prefer you to kind of lure them to what you write. In order to attract them, you must put the most magnetizing aspect of your content first, because in a newspaper we will say there is a pyramid structure, but that pyramid structure, you say that the most important fact you write first. But probably that's not the strategy or the tactics that one can adopt with social media. On the other hand, like there is a pyramid structure, but then the most magnetizing, alluring part of your writing should be actually given first, so that people will get interested in. So there is actually a need for getting people interested in reading your piece in social media. This is different from the newspaper. So first tip I would say would be regarding this prioritizing what part of your content goes in first, and it is not necessarily the most important part as we normally conceive a pyramid structure. because most of the communication happens in digital media through visuals like images and videos. So to have a successful blend of the visual and the text and the sound would be the kind of path towards success in the digital media. Another tip I suppose would be to have an idea about the kind of screen time that your readers would spend in relation to whatever content you are putting up. So how much you write depends upon the importance of the topic from the perspective of the reader. So the brevity that is required is not only in the digital media in terms of kind of fine tuning what you write, but also in terms of how much time people will take to read it. The another aspect that's important, I think, is to understand that we are already flooded with facts, a lot of facts in that sense, and there needs to be an idea on our side how to condense these facts and make the analytical connections. People are coming to your write up not to get facts alone, they need to know the connections between facts, and that analytical connection has to be made very clear to the readers, because facts can be gathered from multiple sources, whereas your analysis can be gathered only from your write up. That kind of exclusiveness of your writing is what makes people come and read up your stuff. So in that sense, there ought to be a reasonable kind of connection between the amount of facts that you use and the analytical perspective that you provide in your write up. Finally, one also ought to have an ability to make use of the kind of feedback loops that are available in digital media, which are very important, because such feedback loops are immediately available in the social media, and particularly when you write in the digital platforms, there will be suggestions coming up from all kinds of people and places, and you really need to gear up yourself to respond to those feedback. And in the case of a newspaper article, for example, such feedback might take much more time, but on the other hand, this is much quicker in social media, and if you are not able to respond to that, then your content becomes immediately irrelevant. So the nature of your writing probably would kind of solicit quick responses from people, wherein you need to advance your ideas in a better way than you have already done, or there are many amendments that you need to make, or you may need to provide kind of better rationalization of what you have already written up, or like you need to, for example, kind of add content so that the explanation is much more impactful. So in all these respects, I think there is a need to respect the feedback loops that are available in the digital media, and if you are not able to do that, then I think your writing will become irrelevant much faster than you expect it otherwise to disappear. So in that sense, there is a strong connection between responding to feedback loops and your successful presence in the digital media.